evening, visitors. Welcome to the Australian War Memorial's Last Post ceremony. My name is Sharon Bown, and joining us today from the Royal Australian Navy is Warrant Officer Celeste Di Liberto. We warmly welcome the family of Second Lieutenant Ralph Irving Arnold, whose story will be told shortly. We welcome the veterans who have served, those that are still serving, and the families that support them. We acknowledge the members of RSL and Services Clubs Association, RSL Victoria, and RSL Queensland, who are watching the broadcast of this ceremony across Australia. During the ceremony, wreaths will be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection by family, visitors, and students on behalf of the following school: Essington School, Nightcliff, Northern Territory. Please stand and join in singing the national anthem. The Australian War Memorial was the vision of Charles Bean, Australia's First World War official historian. Girls and boys, you may be seated. Bean landed with the Australian troops on Gallipoli and stayed with them at the front through to the end of the war. The idea of this national memorial and museum came to him at Pozières, France, in the depths of the bloody fighting of 1916. Bean's idea was that this would be a place where families and friends could mourn loved ones buried in faraway places. It would also be a place that could help all Australians understand what these men and women had endured and what they had done for us. Bean's vision, to which we remain true, is best expressed as inscribed in the entrance to the memorial's galleries. Here is their spirit, in the heart of the land they loved, and here we guard the record which they themselves made. Tonight we will read the story behind just one of those on the Roll of Honour, which lists the names of more than 102,000 men and women who have given their lives for us in war and on operations for more than a century. But first we present a lament, Flowers of the Forest. Wreaths or floral tributes will now be laid at the base of the Pool of Reflection.
Today we remember and pay tribute to Second Lieutenant Ralph Irving Arnold. Ralph Arnold was born on 3rd of August 1888, the second son of Richard and Annie Arnold of North Sydney. His father served for many years as a clerk of the New South Wales Legislative Assembly and had been instrumental in founding the New South Wales Rugby Union. Ralph attended the Church of England Grammar School and then Sydney Grammar School. He went on to study at the Hawkesbury Agricultural College in Richmond and became a pastoralist and situation overseer on the Darling Downs in Queensland. Arnold travelled to Toowoomba to enlist in the Australian Imperial Force within months of the outbreak of war in 1914. He was posted to the 2nd Light Horse Regiment and within a short period of time was sent overseas for service. The 2nd Light Horse landed at Gallipoli without their horses in early May 1915 in order to reinforce the infantry that had landed in April. The 2nd Light Horse spent the next few months in and out of the front line at what became known as Quinn's Post. In August 1915, the regiment attacked Turkish trenches opposite Quinn's Post as part of the August offensive. The first wave of this assault failed, and the officer commanding the attack had the fortitude to call it off. Lance Corporal Arnold, who had been promoted shortly after landing on the peninsula, survived his Gallipoli experience and returned to Egypt on Boxing Day 1915. Arnold had proven himself capable and shortly after his return to Egypt was selected for officer training. He passed and in March 1916 received his commission as a 2nd lieutenant in the 15th Battalion, transferring from the Light Horse. The 15th Battalion saw action on the Western Front near the French village of Poitiers. The village had been captured on the 23rd of July 1916, and on the 8th of August, the 15th Battalion were called on to capture a German position in the north. The operation was launched at 9:20 in the evening under an intense artillery bombardment. Most of the 15th Battalion managed to reach their objectives, but all were forced to retire in the early hours of the morning. 2nd Lieutenant Arnold failed to return. It was later determined that he'd been seriously wounded and his men could not bring him back through the extremely heavy shell fire. German reports later confirmed his death. In Australia, the New South Wales Parliament referred to the death of Ralph Arnold. His father wrote to express his thanks, saying, "I very highly value the kind words spoken by the Premier, Mr. Fuller. Words cannot give back the brave lad, but by their expression of sympathy, they do much to soften the loss." A friend of Ralph's, 2nd Lieutenant Glasgow, wrote to the Arnold family, saying that Ralph had a very keen sense of duty, always having the welfare of his men at heart, for which he was highly spoken of by them and his brother officers. Australia can ill afford to lose officers and citizens of his standard. Ralph Arnold was buried in the London Cemetery at Extension in Longueville in France. He was 28 years old. His name is listed on the Roll of Honour to my right, among more than 60,000 Australians who died during the First World War. A photograph of his headstone is displayed beside the pool of reflection. But this is one of the many stories of service and sacrifice told here at the Australian War Memorial. Now, remember 2nd Lieutenant Ralph Irving Arnold and all those Australians who have given their lives in service of our nation.
Please stand for the reading of the Ode and the sounding of the last post.
They shall not grow old as we who are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, nor the years condemn. In the going down of the sun and in the morning, we will remember them.
We will remember them.
lest we forget.
Lest we forget. We leave you this evening with the words of the memorial's founder, Charles Bean. Many a man laying out there at Pozières or in the low scrub at Gallipoli, with his poor, tired senses barely working through the fever of his brain, has thought in his last moments, well, it's over. But in Australia, they will be proud of this. Ladies and gentlemen, girls and boys, that concludes the last post ceremony. We thank you for visiting the Australian War Memorial, and we wish you all a very good evening.